They say in Harlan County there are no neutrals there. You'll either be a Union man or a thug for J.H. Blair. I'm a miner's daughter, and a miner bows to none. We'll be with you, fellow workers, till every battle's won. Which side are you on, boys? Which side are you on? Which side are you on, boys? Which side are you on? Which side are you on, boys? Which side are you on? Which side are you on, boys? Which side are you on? Come of all you good workers, good news to you I'll tell, of how that good old Union has come in here to dwell. Oh, workers, can you stand it? So tell me how you can. Will you be a lousy scab, or will you be a man? There's a yellow rose in Texas that I am going to see. No other fellow knows her, no other, only me. She cried so when I left her, it like to broke my heart. And if I ever find her, we never more will part. Hey! Hey! Next round's on me, boys. She's the sweetest rose of color this soldier ever knew. Her eyes are bright as diamonds, they sparkle like the dew. You may talk about your dearest May and sing of Rosalie, but the yellow rose of Texas is the only girl for me. Hey! Yay! Where the Rio Grande is flowing and the starry skies are bright, she walks along the river in the quiet summer night. She thinks if I remember when we parted long ago, I promised to come back again and never leave her so. Oh, now I'm going to find her, for my heart is full of woe, and we'll sing the song together that we sang so long ago. We'll play the banjo gaily and we'll sing the song of yore, and the yellow rose of Texas shall be mine forevermore. Mine forevermore.
Right, Alex, are we in? Are we live?
We are here. Hello, everybody. Happy VE Day, everybody, and welcome to another Reveal live stream for Radio Kaiserreich. As always, I'm joined by Vincent, our head producer here at Kaiser Cat Cinema, and we have a great, personally, I think, it's a great episode waiting for you today.
I'm looking forward to it, Alex. Just before we start, like, how have things been across the channel? The last time we spoke was in Berlin. That was before the whole COVID pandemic, so things got really, really weird after that. So how have you been?
I've been well. I've been staying safe, staying at a safe distance, doing my bit and everything. It's been an interesting. We're in an interesting time, and today actually really.
It's definitely interesting. It's a little too interesting, probably.
Yeah, that's one definite way to say it. But today was a really interesting time. I think we in the UK, a lot of places did this, but we replicated what the UK did directly on VE Day back 75 years ago, and everyone had street parties. And today, I was a member of a social distancing street party, and it was so bizarre, but also so. It had that togetherness spirit, which which was seen after and during the war, and it was one of those things that made you kind of reflect on the world that we're in today. And actually, that brings us quite nicely onto this episode, because this episode
very, very clever segue. What can you tell us about the episode, Alex?
Well. Today's episode is a bit. The way I've been describing it to people that have asked me about this episode is it's a bit meta. We went a bit further with the whole idea of what if Germany won World War I, and we went, well, what if we could come up with the timeline with the least war or conflict, the blessed timeline, so to speak. So this is why the project was known as Project Beatified, like
Beatified,
like
actually I didn't know the word beatified, so I thought it was like beets, like red beets.
Yeah, no, beatified. Beatification is the process of making someone a saint. So
okay.
I nabbed that straight
sense.
from all my time playing Crusader Kings 2. But yes, it's Project Beatified, and this, honestly, I think this is one of our best episodes yet, if not our best episode on Radio Kaiserreich yet. And I'd also just like to quickly thank all the voice artists in this one, and the writer for making this one possible. It was a great working with you all. I'll give you another shout out at the end properly when I've got everyone's names and pronunciations down. But other than that, I think we're ready to start the episode, don't you?
I think we're ready to start. So what's going to happen is I am working on the Divided States Season 1 poster, A Long Road Westward. I still haven't figured out the title. But so I will be painting so you guys have some kind of visual, but I will be muting myself, and then Alex will pitch in here and there. But otherwise, we will let the radio show play in its entirety, I would guess. And we have the prize question.
Yes, halfway through in the audio break of the radio show today, we have a question to put out there, and if you answer that question, there's a prize to be won. We're doing a little bit of a giveaway, and
it's the return home poster. So this one.
Yes, it's the. I'm trying to get my directions right. The poster just
aren't we like in the opposite direction? I think we're in the opposite direction.
I think I'm pointing the right way, but that poster is actually cut off the screw. Hold on, see if I can. That one there, over there. Oh,
the return home poster. It's over there.
Yeah. We'll be giving
away.
Yeah,
we'll be giving away one copy, and then and we will let you know how to enter the prize question once Alex announces the break. I will switch to screen and mute myself. Mm-hmm. Alex, I'm giving you the floor. So muting in 3, 2, 1.
All right, just before we go, I want to say again, thank you all of you for coming, for listening, and we will be releasing this episode now. And another thing, I will be taking Q&A questions for after the broadcast. If you have any questions about the production, let me know. Just at me in chat. I'm at Midgeman. You can catch me there. All right, let's begin this broadcast. Hello, everybody. My name is Alex. You might know me as Midgeman, and I'm the production lead on Radio Kaiserreich, as well as the voice of Nicholas Faircrest. I'd like to take this moment before the episode to thank everybody for their support of Kaiser Cat Cinema. The situation around the world right now is a really tough time for the arts and the creative industry, so your support, even just by watching and listening to these broadcasts, really helps us out. Many people within the creative arts industry, myself included, work on a freelance basis and for whom many opportunities right now have either fallen through or completely collapsed. So if you do have the means right now and you want to do something to help the arts industry, consider supporting a local relief fund, donating to an arts charity, or a local theatre, or art gallery or museum, or even consider becoming a patron of Kaiser Cat Cinema. Just support somewhere that likes to create creative work and support the arts in this troubled time. All right, that's the preachy, talky bit done. Let's get on with episode 3. Thank you for listening.
It's a long, long way to Tipperary, but my heart's right there.
Fellow Britons, we must interrupt your regular broadcast of Albion Air to bring you this devastating news. At 7:15 this morning, Thomas Edward Lawrence passed away following a motorcycle accident during a trip along the Jurassic Coast. A state funeral has been arranged in London for next Monday, to which all men and women are invited. Until then, flags will remain at half-mast to commemorate a man who, while short in stature, was possessed of a spirit which dwarfed that of even the greatest of men. In his honor, for the first half of this morning's program, we shall be playing several old radio clips. These clips highlight the world which we have forged today. A world which Winston Churchill once stated would never have ever been possible, but for an avalanche of heroism that we saw throughout this decade. That avalanche would not have been possible if not for the small stone, the catalyst that was T.E. Lawrence. We will start today's tributes with the first broadcast ever to feature Mr. Lawrence. A day which many have come to believe shaped the modern world. Welcome, comrades, back to another broadcast. It is my duty to inform you that on this day, April 28th, at 4:30 p.m., RED Commander T.E. Lawrence, along with a handful of brave commandos, stormed the TUC, ending the Black Boot Revolution. The details on how this all came to transpire are spotty at best, but from what our investigators and friends have told us, at noon today, a group of students created a human chain before the doors of Oxford University in order to stop Black Boot thugs from arresting Professor C.S. Lewis. When ordered to open fire upon the students, several RED commandos, along with Mr. Lawrence, turned their arms against their former comrades. Mr. Mosley was captured by Lawrence and his fellow freedom fighters attempting to commit suicide. He is to be held in the Tower of London under heavy guard until his trial. In the meantime, Lawrence has been sworn in as the new commandant. He has announced that he intends to root out the extremism and hatred that has, for too long, infected our home islands. Our sources indicate that he has already sent letters to the exiles in Canada in hopes of extending an olive branch and coming to a peaceful resolution to the Revolution of 1925. Our second tribute is from the last ever official broadcast of the People's Voice, a broadcast which had several interesting letters sent to yours truly, as well as the government itself. Welcome back, comrades, or should I say, fellow countrymen, to another special news bulletin. Talks between the exiles in Canada and our own delegates have found historic success. For the first time in nearly a decade, a member of the House of Windsor walks upon the blessed shores of their homeland. King Edward VIII, along with Mr. Lawrence and several Union leaders, met yesterday evening in Buckingham Palace. They met to discuss the terms of the return of the king and exiles. Reporters were not permitted to access the meeting, but a reliable source claims that the plans made will be fair and amenable for everyone involved. Later that evening, during a speech on London Bridge to the public, the exiled king called up Commandant Lawrence and bestowed upon him, to great excitement from the gathered crowds, the Victoria Cross for supreme bravery and loyalty in the face of incomprehensible odds. After this, he called up the ex-RED commandos, awarding them all with the new Georgian Medallion for protecting the students and preserving the peace and humanity on our fair island. The king closed the event with a speech, the closing remarks of which stated, "The time of austerity and tyranny is over. The people of Britain, through sheer will and determination, have changed the course of history yet again, with aims of peace and harmony. Our island will now return as a jewel that shines on the face of this earth, rather than a stain that lies in the shadows. Lawrence and his men have put the pride that we once all felt, back in our hearts. Hold your heads up high, people of Britain. Today is a new day." Breaking news from the palace for all you Windsor aficionados out there. After what has been described as a textbook delivery, there is now a new member to join the royal family. That's right, at 2:45 p.m, Princess Mary Lawrence Josephine Sophie Windsor was born at Balmoral Castle. His Royal Highness King Edward VIII has invited the entire public to her baptism at Westminster Abbey, the Sunday after next, stating that while my son's birth was overshadowed by the spectre of war looming on the horizon, my daughters shall not. In this era of peace and prosperity for the Empire, we must ensure that we do not forget the small, happy moments which define us. What happy news to receive on what has so far been an all-around somber day. Next on our tribute list, whilst not featuring the hero of the hour himself, it is considered widely to have been only achievable due to the examples set by Mr. Lawrence on a world scale. Breaking news out of the United States today. The recently elected President, Floyd Olson, has done what many politicians and experts deemed impossible. After months of careful political maneuvering and several close shaves, the President, along with Senators Huey Long and John Jack Reed, have finally come to an agreement over the future of the United States. In a speech before Congress Hall, the three men announced, among other matters, the disarming of both the Minutemen and the Red Guard, as well as announcing that the United States would no longer sit idly and allow the use of terror and violence to subvert the democratic process. It would seem that for the second time this decade, peace and freedom has prevailed over the fear and the hatred. With this momentous occurrence, one can only really be hopeful for the future. A new politically active America will soon be seeking new friends on the world stage. And who better, if I may say so, than the Entente, who has been dedicated to the pursuit of freedom since even before the Weltkrieg. Peace in Europe was not something that many of us could, simply have dreamed of. Even after the toppling of the tyrannical government, at home the looming spectre of extremism was present in the commune to our south. However, it seems that Mr. Lawrence's spectre loomed larger, even stretching all the way across the channel. Good afternoon, listeners. You join us on a glorious day for Europe. In an astounding turn of events, a recent referendum in the Commune of France has led to the ousting of the violent Jacobin government. No doubt inspired in some small way by our own victory over totalism, the bureaucratic class and the lower government organizers came together to hold Chairman Marcel Diet accountable for his violent and totalitarian policies. These figures banded together from across all political fronts in the general labor exchange and managed to force through a referendum on the state of the nation. When put to the people, the decision was made that with the election of Ferdinand Boisson and his extension of rights and protections across the nation, it would be preferable to dissolve the commune and unite with the old government in exile. The Jacobin leadership denounced the referendum as an act of treason, declaring its outcome void. They were, however, arrested by Police Union Chair Marc Cormier on charges of corruption and attempted election tampering prior to any action on their part. President Bousson has made no statement on the nation's new path. I must interject again in our coverage of the memorial for General Lawrence with more breaking news from Russia, continuing on from the previous weeks. The new Vozhd, Boris Savinkov, has continued his reclamation of rightful Russian land. After defeating the resurgent Bolsheviks last year, he has slowly moved troops east to the steppes of Central Asia. Hours ago, he reportedly sent a telegram of unknown content to the Turkic Khan. There is yet to be a response from the Khanate, but it is suspected that they, like the Cossacks and Azerbaijani, will soon enough be joining the Russian state. The Vozhd has already been rattling his saber at both the Japanese and German empires. It is suspected that no matter the outcomes of future diplomacy, it may end up that this new revanchist, expansionist Russia may bring about the next great war. And God help us all if it does. We will be looking further into the Russian crisis in tomorrow's broadcast. And now back to our memoriam scheduling. This next broadcast has less to do with Lawrence himself, and again, instead, the legacy of peace which he himself was a champion of, even in the tumultuous Balkan states. News out of the Austrian Empire today. In the wake of the Ausgleich and ensuing civil war, Emperor Karl I of Austria has proclaimed a new Danubian federation. Under the precedent of self-rule and autonomy under the crown, the emperor has thus divided the empire into provinces, with larger degrees of local autonomy, each ruled by the local ethnic and cultural majorities, but guided by his hand. With this historical union has come the answer to the long-standing fate of the Balkans. With the Austrian Empire now unified under one common purpose, the extremist groups in the region should be maintained. There are already groups in Greece and Romania clamoring for their governments to accept the emperor's invitation to the federation and its sphere of influence. Anzac veterans and leadership were ecstatic to hear this news, remembering the fierce fighting at Gallipoli and the Dardanelles. During the last war, the idea of peace in the Balkans was thought a dream that none could achieve, and yet, today we see just that. Tomorrow we'll be talking to an Anzac veteran of this war. Our last tribute broadcast before returning to regular news was a momentous occasion, which is widely considered to have been the most important political event since the end of the Weltkrieg. Exciting news from the Zurich conference. The talks have been a miraculous success. Delegates from each member, both the Entente and the International, have finally come to a satisfactory agreement, with both Britain and France's return to the Entente. Many of the International's delegates were worried that they would be expected to reform their governments into the more traditional republics. However, with the integrating of socialism into both the democratic structures of the UK and France, the main talking point was focused on the citizens' rights to choose. Thus, the Zurich Pact was signed today, declaring that, whilst not a formal alliance, the signatories of the Zurich Pact would be expected to come to the defense of one another should a foreign threat arise, with aims of the revocation of those citizens' rights. The current signatory nations and delegates are as follows: the United Kingdom, represented by Prince Albert; the Republic of France by Albert Sarraut; the Australasian Confederation by Jesse M. Street; the Dominion of India by Liaquat Ali Khan; the Dominion of Canada by John Diefenbaker; the Dominion of Ireland by Liam Mellows; the Swedish Commune by Carl Kilden; the Norwegian Union by Ragnar Frisch; the Union of Denmark by Alfred Jensen; the Socialist Republic of Italy by Achille Grandi; the Iberian Federation by Salvador de Madrigal, and the United States of America by Quentin Roosevelt. Already, the political correspondents and experts have been hailing this as the start of not only peace in Europe, but most probably peace in our world. That was not some blind statement I made then. I still feel today, especially with the work that Mr. Lawrence did to assure our own public freedoms, that our world is on a better path. He was a truly great man. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for your attention today as we have paid homage to the late, great T.E. Lawrence. Now, however, it is time that we return to the events of today. But first, this. We begin our regular news broadcast with a continuation story from last week on the Italian debacle. The President of Italy and ANI leader, Italo Balbo, has finally caved to international pressure, and the election which he had cancelled will be held early next month. No comments were received from himself, but one of his aides stated that this new crypto-syndicalist alliance has finally succeeded in tearing down the only truly honest leader in Europe. In a letter to the people, Mr. Balbo announced that he would be retiring from politics, as he could not stand to live in a world where the true sons of Rome lived under the boots of the Austrian and syndicalist menace. An anonymous source within the Foreign Office expressed their shock that the president was able to be cowed, even with all of Europe standing united against him. They have also expressed their pleasure at his compliance, stating that, had he not, this could have turned into an international conflict, which could have had severe repercussions. More on that as it progresses. As many of our regular listeners know, we here at Albion Air are very proud of the part that Britain has played in the Zurich Pact, and as well the many steps it has made to preserve peace, not only for our own people, but those abroad as well. It would be a great disservice to our allies if I did not report on their achievements as well. The day has finally dawned after years of being stonewalled by the old Kaiser the French Foreign Minister will be meeting with the newly crowned Kaiser Wilhelm III later this month in Vienna to discuss entry to the Zurich Pact for Germany and its client states. Many members of the Zurich Pact, including the Americans and the Austrians, have attempted to convince the old Kaiser to enter talks with our governments, but he had been too tied up in the old grudges to even come to the table. It is wonderful to see that with this new regime in Berlin, that a modern and diplomatic man is at the helm. If all goes well with these talks, Europe will see itself brought into a union of states, which can hopefully preserve the peace that has been fought for so dearly. We will be back with more news of the new German regime after this quick break.
Oh, that's just Vincent. There I am. Okay, so
are we back? All right, we're back.
We're back with the halfway point right now.
Yeah.
So we are here just to quickly punch in and do a couple of things. First up is the competition. So there's two parts to this competition. The first one is it has to be in by email, and we're not telling you where our email is. You have
the Kaiser Cinema email. Let's specify that. Like, don't go blowing up my personal email, guys.
If anyone finds my personal email, well done. The Kaiser Cinema email address. And next is all you have to do is answer this simple question, and that question is: let me open our other. Which lord spends millions of his own funds to set up homeless relief shelters under the British Reconstruction Authority? That question again.
So that's the BRE teaser I gave our people earlier.
That's the BRE teaser. It is the question again. Which lord spent millions of his own funds to set up homeless relief shelters under the British Reconstruction Authority?
Okay.
Now we
Looks
want
like,
those answers again to the email. And yeah, we wish you all very much good luck on that. And
I will be watching the email, and if you are the winner, you will get an email back from me, and then we will discuss your shipping location and everything. I think that's it for now.
yeah, just a couple of other things that we need to announce that you might have been alluded to by the bottom left of this broadcast. We are reminding you to actually subscribe. Your subscription really helps us because it helps us grow as a channel, and we're getting very, very, very close to 50k subscribers. We are in the last couple of hundred, so if you share this broadcast when it's done, or the actual release of Kaiserreich Radio or any of our previous videos with a friend, just one friend, you can help us get there, and we'd be very grateful for you. There's also a new flag and a new Rusky Business map on the web shop, so you can check those out in the... There's a link to that in the description below, I believe. And the Divided States, there is a dev diary coming for that next week, did you say?
Yeah, I will be posting a dev diary for the Divided States, checking progress and show you guys what we've been working. I'll also release the pianist animation test we did back in the day, which hasn't been public to our patrons for some time now, but it'll show you guys what the Divided States will look like. We have a Writers' Room event probably on Thursday, which will be a semi-public Zoom call. So basically people who want to see us and the writers work on the first season can come in and join in, pitch ideas if they have like cool things they want to share with us. And I will probably give more information about that during the Dev Diary. I also have had a very exciting visit to a friend of mine, Inyas Alia, who runs another YouTube channel called Tolerated Cinematics. He's all about filmmaking. And we bought a bunch of secondhand material from him. So we have a fully equipped green screen room that we are now building, which we will use in the Divided States Cinematic. And I will also do a dev diary on that, probably in the week after next week. Those are my announcements.
Yeah, I think that's everything, other than also make sure to @ me in the chat right now if you have questions about Kaiser Cinema, or about the broadcast, about the creation of it. We'll be doing a quick Q&A at the end of the broadcast, but other than that, I think
I'm seeing the first... never mind. Yeah, quick Q&A at the end. We'll be there.
We will do a quick Q&A at the end, but other than that, let's get back to the broadcast.
The very same. Welcome back. I severely hope you enjoyed that little ditty. But now is the time to bring out one of our two guests for the evening. Dr. Friedrich Schierstadt, a medical officer assigned to the German Imperial Army garrison in Tsingtao. How are you this evening, Doctor?
Good, Herr Faircrest. Danke for having me this evening.
The pleasure is all mine. It is not every day we have someone here who can give us a first-hand account of such a monumental world event.
I assume you are talking about the recent Nanking conference, yeah?
Yes, the very same.
Well, I was amongst the retinue of General Falkenhausen during his meetings with President Chen Jiaming and Prince Takamatsu in order to effect the reorganization of East Asia. It was not a short meeting, and all three leaders had come with large arrays of troops.
That doesn't sound promising, Doctor. Were you worried it would come to blows?
Many times, especially when the Japanese delegation was offended that the Kaiser did not come himself, as was intended. Even so, their own emperor did not attend either. The delegations had several different ideas on how the Far East should have been reorganized.
But from what we have heard, the talks ended in a success. Is it true that both the Japanese and the German armies are pulling out of China?
Well, ja and nein. After severe mismanagement in the wake of the Black Monday crisis and the following resecuring of the concessions territories, many of the territories were either seized by the local Chinese or were reoccupied by the previous European owners.
Yes, but rumors had it that after Chun Fang's unification of central China, both Germany and Japan were considering backing out.
Nein, both the Kaiser and the Emperor intend on maintaining their colonial regions. However, with the loss of Indochina and Manchuria, neither side has a foothold large enough to press any of their claims, especially not with China united under Chun Fang.
I am surprised that these Chinese have not demanded the returns of their old colonial holdings. Is there any word on the desires for them?
Not that I am allowed to share publicly. I can say, however, that this will not be the last conference in the East.
Well, you mentioned before the show that you will not be taking part in any further negotiations. Why is that?
Well, Herr Faircrest, I have served the Kaiser since before the Weltkrieg. I am getting on in years, and it is time for my retirement. With the warming relations between Canada and Germany, I think it's about time for me to visit some extended families there.
Oh, you have family in Canada. How long have you known of that?
Well, I have always known that my great-grandfather left for the New World, but I never knew where he landed. But it would seem that his descendants are still alive in Canada, and the youngest Arthur decided to research into the family and sent me a letter inviting me to visit.
Oh, lovely. And obviously you intend on using your retirement to see them.
Well, actually, I intend on settling down there. My wife and I decided that since both of our sons are still in the army, we would stay there. Probably somewhere by the sea. Canada is being made easier by the Zurich Pact. I see no reason why I shouldn't spend my retirement somewhere a little different. After all, I have been assigned to Astasian for almost 10 years now. I will spend the next 10 in the far west.
Well, thank you very much for taking the time to meet with me this evening, Doctor. And good luck on your travels.
Danke, Herr Faircrest. God bless you and yours.
And now for the last segment of today's broadcast. We have a special treat for you all in light of the recent tragic death of General Lawrence. We have invited Professor Abigail Francesca Pinette, head of the Oxford Department of History, to come and tell us all a little story. Welcome, Professor.
Thank you for having me on, Mr. Faircrest. Are there any specific events you would want me to theorise on?
Why don't you just give us the outcome you see as most likely?
Well then, we must go back to 1936. The way I see it, the peace we are now living in is nearly impossible. It's almost as though God himself came down and essentially ensured that the perfect sequence of events came about for a peaceful world. First off, the fact that President Olson managed to keep a coalition government together and get elected was something that no political expert could ever have expected. Most likely we would have seen a much less tactful establishment candidate take over, and a civil war would have broken out, forcing another decade at least of American isolationism. Speaking of elections, the chances of both Mosley and Deet being elected to the Commune and Union were astronomically low. Most likely we would have seen two more syndicalist governments controlling the nations, thereby ensuring a war with both the Germans and the Entente.
How can you be so sure of all of this?
Well, everything that happened this century was remarkable. It is uncommon to see major political change happen in such a small period of time in so many regions. After the Weltkrieg, many new orders were both established and normalised. The syndicalist government in France and here in Great Britain were not hated by the population, and the chances of two violent dictators coming to power and staying there in a democratically elected society like theirs was one that could be assumed. Most likely we would have seen a peaceful transition, even if Mosley had still won the election. Lawrence's coup was not guaranteed to succeed after all.
And perish the thought of that failing. But what about the Entente powers? Surely they could have managed to keep the peace?
Well, actually, both in France and Canada, things could have gone remarkably differently. Pétain not only unsuspended the constitution and allowed the Socialist Party to run in a free election, but also lost to them. Considering most of the government in exile at the time and population were incredibly revanchist, rivaling only their distaste for Germans after the disastrous Battle of Sedan, it would have been much more likely to see the Republican Party, or even more likely the Action Française, win that election. Meanwhile in Canada, Bill C-7 was a massive stroke of luck. It passed by such a slim margin in the House that some people believed that Prime Minister King himself was the deciding vote, while the exiles in the Senate, rumour has it, only accepted it as is due to several major concessions offered up by the Prime Minister in private. With the temperament of King Edward, directly after the death of his father, who knows how he would have reacted to the Liberals failing yet another stabilising bill? With the way His Majesty had addressed the nations weeks prior, he may have dissolved Parliament altogether, and we could have seen a dramatically altered Canadian perspective towards the Home Isles.
Well, if all of that had come to pass, where do you think the world would be right now?
Well, no one can say for certain, but if I were to hazard a guess at all this, I would say we would still be in the middle of the Second Great War, one which would likely have 4, if not 5, participants.
4 or 5 participants? And who exactly would the participants of this Second Great War be?
Well, obviously the Entente would be attempting to reclaim their old territories, most likely with His Majesty guiding a much more, shall we say, militaristic government, backed by a France in exile under either Pétain himself or perhaps even a restored Bourbon crown.
Do you really believe that the French would have appealed to the laws of exile?
It is not unlikely, especially if the Action Française had won the election. On that note, the second side to that war would very obviously be the International, led by France but buoyed by Mosley's Britain, a syndicalist Italy, the Spanish, Norway and the Swedes. The entrance of the Nordic nations into the international and French revanchism would lead then to the Germans acting as the third great power in the war.
That would be 3 major powers. What about the 4th and the 5th?
Well, the 4th is a bit iffy as, depending on the state of the empire, Karl II may have decided to intervene in the war, or could have used Italy as an excuse to attack the French himself. As for the 5th power, I expect that the current Vozny Zvinkov would still be leading Russia, and I assume that he would have already attempted to expand Russia to its old western borders, were it not for the threat of the entire world descending upon him if he did.
That sounds absolutely dreadful. You said earlier you suspected that the United States would have fallen into civil war. Do you have any idea who would have won? And if so, who would they have aided?
Honestly, American politics at the time were dreadfully complex. It would have all come down to who won the election. The coalition between Republican and Democrats was so flimsy that I'm honestly amazed that President Olson managed to hold it together and win. Had Senator Long or Reed won the presidency, it would be unlikely that the establishment would allow it to last. Most likely a general, such as Eisenhower or Chafee, would have ousted the radical president, especially if some of their more daring plans were implemented immediately.
So, unlike the last Civil War, it would not be 2-sided, but 3-sided?
Well, in actuality, I suspect it could well have been a 4, maybe even 5-way war. If the military were to depose an elected government, I doubt some of the more Republican states in the West Coast would have remained loyal to Washington. And if Edward had taken control of Canada, well, it could have been possible to see the Mounties and Royal Rangers descending into New England and Alaska, in an attempt to buttress the true North against Reed's base of power in the Steel Belt.
Well, I for one am happy that none of this line of thought had ever come to pass. It would seem that our lives have been almost blessed.
As am I, sir, as am I. Thank you for having me this evening. I will be publishing a book on the subject in a few months. I'll send you a copy if you like.
Well, thank you for the generosity. And thank you for your insight, Professor. And of course, your time. And to everyone at home, thank you for tuning in to today's edition of Albion Air. If there's anything you'll take away from tonight's broadcast, is that it seems as though we are all well and truly blessed, like a beatified saint of old. A myth, a legend. We are living a life touched like a miracle. We have our freedom. We have our families. We have our lives. It seems as though, at the drop of a hat, the world could have been very different. This miracle of a world we live in will soon pass into almost myth, and with it, General Lawrence, and the men and women who fought for our freedoms, they too will be given a mythological status. But it's not a myth, it is our lives. They were just people who we should always give thanks to. It reminds me of the proverb, "From little acorns do mighty oaks grow." Lawrence was just one acorn that grew into one such oak. But it is you the listeners, you at home. You make up the forest. You too can change the world. Let us be sentimental just one last time, if I may. Tonight we close yet another chapter. Let's close off the story of General Lawrence with one last thing. For one last time, God bless you. God bless the King, and most importantly, God bless Lawrence of Britannia.
Hello, everybody. Okay, we are back vocally. Here's a quick me getting a 4-way screen set up. So, first up, we need to congratulate our winner of the competition tonight.
Yes.
I honestly, I will say that I personally didn't know the answer.
So
which-
John Smith
John
was the first
Smith.
one to email, and can you tell us who is the lord that spent his own money in the British Restoration Authority?
The Lord is Lewis Mountbatten.
That is correct. So John, congratulations, you won a free return home poster, which we will be shipping to you. So I'll take it from here in emails and we'll work out the delivery. Thanks for joining us. How long have you been a member of Kaiserreich, of the community?
Pretty recently. I would say that I probably really started getting into it last November.
Yeah.
I discovered Kaiserreich through your channels originally. I discovered it through Kaiserreich Cinema.
Right,
and
cool.
it's really brought me into alternate history. I love the work that you all do, and
Thanks,
I
man.
really enjoyed everything you all do.
We also have a second guest here who is not a winner, Connor, of the competition. Unfortunately, Connor, you're here for
I
work.
tried.
We dragged you in kicking and screaming. He didn't want to come in. Can you introduce Connor for us, Alex?
Yes, so Connor is our writer for this episode. He is the brains behind me throwing a really, really brief summary of what I want and then putting it into words. This which I do to the writers here. I give them a paragraph and they turn out things like that. And I think you can all agree in saying that was a really good episode for Radio.
Yeah,
Kaiser,
I loved
right?
it.
And it's Connor's work that put that together. So we are going to be doing a quick Q&A now.
Mm-hmm.
So if you have any more questions, do get them in now, whether it's for me, for Vincent, for Connor,
Yep.
About the episode, about Radio Kaiserreich, about Kaisercat Cinema, about any of those things. I do already have some questions that we came in. The first one was, of course, when's the next Kaiserreich update? And our normal answer to that is we don't know, because unfortunately, although we are affiliated with Kaiserreich, but we are not Kaiserreich devs ourselves. But you can probably ask that question on the Kaiserreich Discord. They have their own Discord, and I will get a link to that put in chat. I don't know if I can do that.
So if you just go to, it's very easy. Just discord.gg/Kaiserreich. They have their own URL.
Yeah.
By the way, John, if you want to pop out of the stream or if you want to hang around, both are fine with me.
Sounds good. I'm gonna head out, but thank you all again for everything.
Yeah, no problem. Have a nice weekend, man. See ya.
Congratulations again.
Thank you.
Congrats, man.
The next question from that was by Patrick Dowling, which was, when is Kaiserreich Radio 4 slated to be released? Kaiserreich Radio 4 has already gone into production, and in terms of it's written, it's ready, and we should see it within the next the next month or two, depending on how
that's
it
good.
goes. Because we're into the process now of sourcing voice actors for it.
Yeah.
Like we've been trying to include more voices than just Nicholas Faircrest into these stories, and I think it really helps build it and set a world. The first one was obviously in Radio Episode 2 with my friend David Daisley playing Walter Peterson, the TUC leader that everyone so loved. And then I brought two voice artists into this one who were completely... I'd never met them before. We just auditioned and brought in Helen Sterling Lane and Matthew... I don't have it in front of my...
I loved
Fuller.
Matthew's... Matthew Fuller's German accent was great. I also loved Helen's little sort of fourth wall breaking meta thing.
Yes, yeah. That was great.
I thought that'd be a funny thing to add in. So yeah, let's go here.
Nice little thing to add. I loved it.
I remember Winston Churchill had written something like that in one of the original Kaiserreich events.
Uh-huh.
Our Finest Hour. I'm like, you know what? I'm just gonna do this.
Yeah.
Just add Our Finest Hour in.
Nice. Good job.
Next question we had was from Zanthman. Will we do more stuff with Tom Black? Red Flag was really good. Vincent, do you want to take this one?
Sorry, I was looking at Discord. I'm getting DMs. That's kind of a problem, guys. I prefer if like you pick one place to DM me, because if I have both email and Discord and YouTube Live going on. So yeah, what was that again?
Will we be doing any more work with Tom Black?
With Tom Black.
The author of Red Flag.
Did Tom Black wrote? No, I don't.
think.
Tom Black has not written. No, I think you're confusing the Kaiserreich documentary, which is written by Tom Black. So we actually had him come in and write. He has not written the role of Kaiserreich. We might ask him to do one or two in the future. He's a great author. I love his work. Also loved the narrative he wrote for World of Kaiserreich documentary. So that's going to be his main project for now. As for future World of Kaiserreich, I don't know. I'll be writing the next one and maybe asking Flame to do another China one. So we have a few more lined up that we need to finish before we start new World of Kaiserreich projects.
Oscar Jonsson asked, will there be any secret societies developed into the world of Kaiserreich or into Kaiser Cat Cinema's stories?
Into our stories in particular, we have the conventional, the Divided States will have like a spy novel element to it, where it's about the CIA as well as its revolutionary counterparts in the CSA and maybe the AOS. The guys who saw me paint may have seen there's a new special agent looking guy who's called Cooper. He will feature in the first season, and he's one of the good guys. He's a loyalist. So I would say yes and no.
That's a fair answer. And we had Oscar Jonsson ask, no, I've just read that one. Sorry, I was meant to be reading on my other screen. Many monitors. Very confusing. Daniel Herman, will every episode of Radio Kaiserreich feature Faircrest? The answer to that is maybe, maybe not. Yeah. Faircrest is the lead for the first 5 episodes, and then the series will be taking a dart around the rest of the world, particularly America. Basically, this first opening testing, which was originally the first proposed arc, was Faircrest focused, and it is what I call the Faircrest arc. It is building Radio Kaiserreich as an idea. It was our test and see what people liked. But I do have the plans to take this series to other places in the world and bringing other voice artists as the main characters, with new characters, ones from PSA, AUS.
If I can just punch in there real quick. So what I love about working with Alex is he always has a long-term vision. So basically, when I went to Alex and I said, "Hey Alex, I was thinking we should do for the first episode, we should do something like a BBC radio play, like the old fictional radio plays. I think it would be fun." And Alex was like, "Let me think about this." And then when he got back to me, I think you'd written this sort of 3-season 15-episode arc, and I was like, "Oh my god, yes, let's go!"
Yeah, I've got it in front of me. Yeah, I just went, okay. Yeah, so I did some thinking last night, and here's 10 episodes.
My God, sounds like a D&D game.
Yeah, essentially. Basically, that's how I plan.
The thing is, especially with the Divided States now as well, we're planning the season arc, and we do find ourselves like everyone in KCC is very most of our writers are DMs, and then we're like, everyone's talking like, "Oh, we need to get the party to this location, and then this will be and I'm like, we're doing this like it's a D&D game." I absolutely love that idea.
I feel that. That's half of what I ended up doing. It's like, wait a second, let's just all of the memories.
Yeah, but in a way, like D&D is storytelling, right? So that's
exactly.
part of D&D. So the same thinking that goes into preparing a session goes into making an actual story. The difference is that you don't have to account for the very unfortunate human freedom where players will derail your amazing mission from like 30 seconds in, and then you'll have to do pull something out of your hat real quick.
Oh yeah, and
yes,
also
we can Russian state this.
Yeah.
It also negates all of the bad dice rolls as well, which is fantastic.
As well.
I have some questions personally for Connor, because Connor, this is your first outing as a writer. I keep finding people who have never written professionally before to come and do it.
My first attempt at this, yes.
Yeah. So how did you find it? What was your process like? What was working with the fact that I gave you essentially a paragraph to go off of, and then just going, okay, I want a 60-minute radio play, thank you.
So the basic idea was like, I've always tried to create blessed or cursed timelines when I'm playing Kaiserreich, especially when I'm playing with my friends. Mm-hmm. So this is actually in a lot of ways inspired by a game that I had with a lot of friends where just everything just went the right way. And I'm like, wait a second, these can all happen here and these can all function. Mm-hmm. And then I just had to go up with finding like the proper way of putting it together into a functional narrative, and well, that was... And then digging for names. Goodness gracious, digging for names. The Zurich Pact nearly killed me.
Yeah, with the I mean, it almost killed me to read all of those countries and those names. The thing I hate most as a voice actor, as an actor at all, is coming up with people's proper nouns, because it's like, I'm gonna butcher this for someone, even if they might not exist or they might be long past. I still feel bad for getting their name wrong. But yeah, no, it was. I loved this episode. And I loved the stories that came out. And it flowed really nicely in terms of. Radio Kaiserreich as a thing. I always say, I gave you the promise. This was the main hard line I had for it, was the main setting needs to be on the same day. That is the idea of these radios. But you found a way to dart in and out of the timeline and gave us a nice big picture with this, and I really liked it, Connor. Which was your favorite of the story?
My favorite story to write. That's a hard one. I really liked the rebellion in France, because I know that's not a thing you can do in Kaiserreich. It just doesn't happen.
Yeah.
Like, you can come close to it, but it involves an invasion, not a what's the word? I don't know.
Peace accord.
Not a peace accord. The other one I really liked was the interview with Frederick.
Yes.
Yeah.
Also, that was your first time hearing it all as well, put together.
Your
words come to life. What did you think of the two others, the other voice actors? I won't ask what you thought of me, but what did you think of the other two? Because originally the history professor was written as a male.
As a man.
So what was that like for you?
The female actor brought the perfect amount of like sarcasm and slight haha, I know better than you, that I was kind of hoping out of the that I was trying to imply when I was writing it. So I love
that casting. It was a really good one.
Yeah, I loved it. It was wonderful. And the man, to be honest, Frederick Schierstadt's actually a relative of mine. He's a distant past relative.
Interesting.
So it's almost like hearing him come to life type thing. And it was like, wow. The irony of how close he was sounding to my great uncle.
That's really cool. So that was a little injection of your own personal history into the world of Kaiserreich, because you're Canadian, correct? And
yes, I am.
Mentioned. Hello, are you giving me tea?
Why?
just don't worry.
I'm very British.
Yeah, it's very British.
Yeah.
Yes, but anyways, as I was saying, it's you entered your own little bit of story into the world of Kaiser, which is kind of what we've all been doing with.
Well, Arthur's my grandfather. The child who wrote his letters. It was my actual grandfather.
That's pretty cool.
That's really lovely. I love that little bit of a. That's almost what's it called? A cameo. It's like a family cameo to that. So yeah,
I thought it'd be cute.
Yeah, I love that. Again, thank you for writing this episode, because
it was a great time. I'll do it anytime you need me to.
Yeah. But I think that's all the questions we've got, Vincent. So
I sent you 2 more questions on Discord, by the way. Just for the FYI, I forgot to set the Albion. The actual video is premiering in 12 minutes. For the people that missed most of the live stream, you can go straight to the instant premiere. We will not be there, but that's just the video that's going live right now.
Okay, I read one of those questions. Okay, the final question then. Philip Richard Perry asked, "Can we get a cursed timeline?"
Oh heavens! Carl, protect us!
Oh,
I'm gonna bring my
cursed timeline. That'd be fun to write.
Yeah. Well,
I'm shielding myself from your cursed timeline.
Anyway, I think that's the perfect opportunity to tease episode 5's project title. So last time we teased episode 4's project title, which was Project Weltpolitik. But Project 5, episode 5, the project title is Project Downfall. So guess what that timeline is going to be like. But yeah, that is what we're going to be doing. Other than that, I think that's all of us covered.
Whoever wrote that, I must be so depressed about the end of it.
Dominion, Project Downfall hasn't been written yet, but there's a definite down spiral in that episode in the plans. But yes,
I was happy when I was done mine.
Yeah,
everything went well.
Project Betafied is a beautiful one to write. It's all the happiness in the Kaiserreich world. But again, I think we'll close off tonight in saying please subscribe and share this if you haven't already, because we are so close to the 50k mark and we'd love to get there by the end of the month.
700 people We need 700.
700
We're
people.
at 49,300 right now. So that'll be our first milestone on the way to 100K, and then on the way to 1 million Freemen, which is our ultimate goal.
Yeah.
1 million Freemen under the Kaiserreich flag.
And of course, check out the web shop with the new merch out today. There's new merch out today or this week recently. So go check that out. As always, make sure you follow our follow us on Discord. That's our kind of main hub for sharing all of our stuff. You can get involved by looking at project rooms. And if you want to help us out, especially in the times that we've got right now, please consider becoming a patron. We wouldn't be able to do any of this without your support and your creation. We wouldn't be able to share our stories, our little injections of our own family history into the Kaiserreich world. I'm going to use that now, Connor. Thank you. We would not be able to do that without your support. And even $1 can go so far as to help us create these projects for you to enjoy,
Definitely.
for you to consume.
For all our patrons listening, thank you for supporting as well.
Yeah,
we will also do another, it's been a while since we've done that, an internal patron read for the next script. Alex, if you can get people together, we'll do like a rough read of the next radio script whenever you have the script ready.
Yeah, I've got the first draft of the script fully complete, I believe. So I'll be able to do that very soon. So if you want to see or want to hear the rough version of the radio broadcast, we'll be doing a Patreon live reader.
Featuring,
it would be featuring me.
Featuring such hilarious shenanigans as you and Roach trying to pronounce Kufelinte for the first time, like the
Kumfelenfash,
Kumfelenfash,
or whatever it was. The German, the Welsh mining town. And then I had 4 Welsh people listen to me to say that, and I watched all of them cringe. One of them audibly cringe, and then the 3 of them just go.
Oh, wonderful.
But yes, again, we do fun things like that. I'm also tempted, if people are interested, I'm asking this as a question now to patrons. Would you like a video or some sort of live stream where you see me do a behind the scenes of audio editing for this? Just as a more behind the scenes of the creations of this. It's not as exciting.
I would love to have that. Yeah, it's not as exciting, but we should try and do more of that behind the scenes. I do more live stream paintings as well nowadays.
Yeah.
I think
just
people...
as another thing. And yes, Divided States is going, and we've got also the Project Chomsky and the documentary series is now fully underway as well, which is gonna be all soon. So there's lots of stuff to come in the Kaiserreich universe, and we hope to see you all for that. And until next time, cats, I believe that's it from us.
Yep. Want to thank everyone for watching, and then that will be our sign off for today, and wishing you all a good weekend.
Good night, everybody.
Good night.
Bye.